guys, so I'm back with another update. A few days have passed since the last part of this video. I've been cleaning out the garage. I got it in the garage finally. Yesterday I was tinkering around with it. Really haven't gotten too much in it. I've been pretty busy lately. But I cleaned the interior out. Oh, this door's still locked. Give me a second. I cleaned the interior out, got all the garbage out of it. Still got to vacuum it here in a second, but pulled the center console out, was looking at the shifter's messed up. I did drive it a couple times around the block just to see what's going on with it, so messing around with it, and got it in the garage, and the owner said that, who I bought it from, said that he basically turned up the boost and it didn't, fuel system didn't like that, shut off, stalled out, shut off, whatever, overheated, drove it home, nothing. So, or didn't drive it home, had it towed home and left it parked. Well, he says supposedly motor was blown, but that's not necessarily the case here, I think, because it's been running naturally aspirated perfectly fine. It idles, doesn't stutter, it drives, and it only falls on its face up top, which that's of course because there's no boost. And you know, of course, this car came with a turbo. It's tuned for the boost. So you know, I didn't even look at the turbo or anything. So what I did yesterday was pop open the turbo, which I'm going to be taking the intake back off again today. I just put it back on so I could move it in the garage. But basically, I pulled the intake off the turbo to find out that the turbo is seized. The turbo does not spin whatsoever, and I'm thinking that is the reason why this car of course it's making no boost, but like I think that's the reason. I'm not 100% sure that the motor is completely messed up. Now I'm sure it can be. I'm not saying it isn't, because I'm just guessing in my mind right now. But as you can see, I went and pulled the wires off and pulled the spark plugs out, and I'm going to compression test it. Of course, that's like the main thing here. You know, so I still have the built motor, so it's going to get swapped anyways. But if I can at least get it like running decent right now with some boost by rebuilding the turbo, I mean, I'll be fine with that until it hits winter and I can put the new motor in it. So what I did was, and so I'm going to compression test this and come back with the numbers. I mean, if the numbers come out okay, I mean, then this motor is probably okay. I mean, I checked the oil. There's no metal shavings in the oil, because I've been driving around. So if there was metal shavings, it'd obviously be in the oil by now, from the multiple starts. And it doesn't overheat or anything. You know, it seems to be running fine. So might as well do the most important test. And then I already ordered, and I'm going to be pulling the turbo tonight, which I'll record that. Of course, since the turbo is completely messed up, pulling it is the first step, and I've already ordered a rebuild kit and a new exhaust housing to it, because as you can see, these two bolts are missing completely, and then this is some jank bolt with on the end. Basically, apparently the exhaust housing is stripped out. That's why there's no bolts in there, which I can totally understand, because if you look down in there, there's no threads. So exhaust housing was cheap from Turbo Labs, and you know, it's a stock. This is a Evo 3 manifold and Evo 3 16G turbo. You know, it's good for a decent amount of power, and I'm fine with that to get the car running. So I'm gonna be pulling the turbo tonight, and hopefully getting it rebuilt pretty soon here. And I'm praying that when I do this compression test that it comes out okay. I mean, because that will save me. You know, I'll be able to rip this thing around a little bit on like 8 psi before I tear it all down and put that built motor in here. So yeah, let me go and compression test it.
I have to use this. Socket won't even fit on here.
Okay.
It's just so close.
Alright, well, guys, we compression test the motor. Cylinder 1 was 165, cylinder 2 was 160, cylinder 3 was 145 and cylinder 4 was 160. So good numbers. I mean, the motor, I have no clue how many miles are on the motor. My guess, I'm told that this motor is stock. If this motor's stock, it's got 150K on it. So those numbers are honestly fine. Obviously, the third cylinder is on its way out, but that doesn't mean that, you know, it still runs. It still is fine. So we're going to continue working here, and we're going to pull the turbo, and I'm going to rebuild it. And I'm going to be able to whip this thing around on stock boost for a little bit before I put my built motor in here and go for more boost. But it's you know, I'm lucky enough this motor is fine. So we're going to continue working here, and I'll give an update when we have the turbo pulled so we can see what the insides of it look like. Alright guys, so we finally got the turbo pulled. And now it totally understands what's going on with the turbo. So there's a ton of oil in the exhaust housing of the turbo, and there's about a 1/4 inch of shaft play in the turbo. And at first when I took it out, the wheel was completely seized. And then I turned the wheel and pulled it, and a piece of the wheel unlodged itself and fell out of the turbo. So a piece of metal from the wheel came out of the exhaust side of the turbo. So basically it was locked up. Now it's free, but there's a ton of shaft play. And yeah, so, and what we're thinking is the wastegate is what caused the turbo to fail. Because to me it seems like that seized up too. I already ordered a rebuilt kit, like I think I said, and I ordered a new exhaust housing that's ported. Hopefully by the end of the week the turbo will be rebuilt and I'll be able to throw it back in the car, because with the compression numbers this car is going to be running on stock boost just fine when this turbo is back in the car. So I'm very excited because I got pretty much a deal of a lifetime. I do have to source a new intake tube and a new filter before we put everything back together, and I'm probably going to do an oil change because I don't want nasty oil, who knows how old it is, going through my brand new turbo. But otherwise, it's awesome, and I'm happy. And I'm gonna take the exhaust, or the O2 housing, excuse me. I'm gonna take it to my auto shop class and sandblast it. While I'm waiting, I'm gonna paint it. So I'm gonna heat paint it. Use heat paint and paint it up black, and clean up the O2, clean everything. You know, I'm gonna mineral spirits everything, clean it. I'm gonna get new gaskets and a couple new bolts I need. So hopefully within the week, if not 2 weeks, the turbo is gonna be back in the car, rebuilt, and it's gonna be mint. So we'll be boosting. So I'll talk to you guys later. Hey guys, so I just want to document this. I'm sorry if the audio is horrible in here, but it's with the vents on. I sandblasted the O2 housing and cleaned it up, and I'm giving it a shot of some flame proof here, just to make it look better in the engine bay, and stop it from rusting. So, I mean, start out with light coats, go heavy afterwards, and then I'm going to let it sit here and dry for a couple hours, and then pick it up at the end of the day. But it's looking good to me. I think it's going to be good.